Indian workers are tired. Survey after survey show a majority are suffering from burnout.
I remember breaking down, crying on the prayer mat, like, oh, what do I do? Do I even want this?
Yet industry leaders, like Infosys founder Narayana Murthy, argue that Indian youths should work 70 or more hours a week, all to boost the nation's productivity and economic growth.
Indians have to work harder, okay? Is that, like Narayana Murthy said, one generation has to sacrifice so the future is better.
Are long hours necessary for success?
If you are not ready to do it, there are at least 500 other people who are.
Just how grueling are Indian workplaces?
We have a very ingrained feeling that once I hire a person, his life, his time, everything I can utilize whenever I want.
And could burnout become a nationwide crisis?
Burnout is one of the most noxious, toxic, omnipresent stresses that we're dealing with.
The South Indian city of Bengaluru, often called the Silicon Valley of India. As the world's fastest growing tech hub, thousands of young Indians come to the city with dreams of landing a job in the sector, like Ravi.
Back then, this I'm speaking of 4 to 5 years ago, the competition was intense. The competition was intense for the right reasons. You had very qualified candidates out there who were applying for the same job. So it was a very tough time where I had to figure out different ways for me to get the attention from the hiring managers so that they would even give me a chance to interview, right?
Ravi has asked to remain anonymous for fear of being blacklisted by employers for speaking out. As his career as a product manager progressed, Ravi moved to different companies, each one larger and more prestigious than the last.
When I got into my third company, it was great initially. It was one of the finest companies to work for. You're looking at projects that's all for millions of people that make billions of dollars in annual revenue. So the pressure is crazy. You start questioning your ability, like you have the typical imposter syndrome, like do I even belong here? And I think the pressure came from not knowing if I was doing the right thing or not.
Within months, he felt his work start to slip.
How that manifested was, again in my work. My documents, my artifacts would not be as crisp as before. And it got to a point where I would even dread opening my laptop. Like I would wake up, like, oh, here we go again, and I have to work. I don't want to work. I remember breaking down, crying on the prayer mat, like, oh, what do I do? Do I even want this?
At the time, Ravi did not realize he was suffering from the symptoms of work-related burnout.
Burnout is one of the most noxious, toxic, omnipresent stresses that we're dealing with. Some of the symptoms could be a feeling of exhaustion, chronic exhaustion, either physically or mentally. You feel like you don't want to work, you can't work. A feeling of irritability is very common.
Burnout is a problem facing more and more young Indians. A 2023 McKinsey survey found that 59% of Indian respondents reported burnout-related symptoms. And Indian workers say they are tired. Almost 6 in 10 say they face workplace exhaustion, one of the highest rates globally. Plum, a health benefits platform, did their own worker survey.
We did the survey across a lot of employee base of corporate India. 55% of the employees generally report anxiety in an organization in their day-to-day work. And about close to 36% of the employees this month would have taken a day off just for their mental health. We see 63% experience anger every day, 10 points above the global average. 87% of Indian employees report moderate or high level of stress on regular basis.
I used to hit the gym 5 times a week. I used to eat healthy. I used to sleep on time. But then the work was so stressful that I would wake up and the first thing I would do is I would check my phone and read the messages from at work like it was morning newspaper.
Most of the data we have about burnout is on salaried workers, the Indian middle class. In a survey of almost 1,500 IT workers, 1 in 4 say they clock over 70 hours a week. Gig workers, like food delivery riders, can put in between 10 and 12 hours daily. Some have clocked 20 hours. Meanwhile, half of doctors say that they work more than 60 hours a week, with 15% putting in more than 80 hours. In a 2021 government survey, 65% of teachers said that they are overworked. Public schools enroll about 50% of all students. Z is a government school teacher in India's capital, Delhi.
मैं तो खुद जूझ चुकी हूँ. मेरा ना हेडेक जो है इतना होता था हद से ज़्यादा. मतलब मुझे ना दिन में 2-2 पेन किलर तो लेनी ही पड़ती. बहुत ज़्यादा स्ट्रेसफुल रहता है. 8 बजे से लेके 2 बजे तक हम सिंगल पैर पे खड़े रहते हैं. मैं खुद 65 स्टूडेंट्स को एक साथ लेके पढ़ाते हैं हम एक क्लास में.
In one survey, a majority of teachers, 55%, say that they struggle to complete work-related tasks due to stress.
जॉब हमारी पूरे 24 घंटे की है. कोई भी पेरेंट रात को 10-10 बजे भी हमें कॉल कर देता है.
In professions such as healthcare and education, long working hours may be linked to staff shortages. In 2023, government data indicated that there were more than 800,000 vacant posts for primary and secondary school teachers nationwide. In healthcare, many rural areas face a shortage of doctors. The gap is particularly severe for specialists. Roughly 80% of specialist positions at rural community health centres remain unfilled. When posts are left vacant, existing staff often take on heavier workloads to compensate.
I do recognize that a lot of people don't really get to choose how many hours they want to work. Sometimes jobs are just designed in a way that you work 10 hours, 12 hours on the regular, every day, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week sometimes. And then that means that just becomes what they are expected to do.
Dr. Rishu Sinha saw how the long hours affected her husband, Dr. Himash. He was a cardiologist resident at one of Delhi's leading hospitals.
36 आवर्स की ड्यूटी बनती थी उनकी. एक दिन सुबह 8 बजे गए, उसके बाद नेक्स्ट डे मतलब tomorrow he will come by night in 9 p.m. So till 3 months we waited like okay that it will be normalized. लेकिन ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं हुआ. कंटिन्यूस करते गए. इवन ही थॉट कि ही विल डू इट बट नहीं हो पाया. ही वॉज लाइक बहुत ही ही वॉज ब्रोकन.
Eventually, Himash resigned last October. After that, Rishu took an unusual step. She posted publicly about her husband's experience, describing his 36-hour shifts and calling out what she said was a toxic work environment.
I thought कि क्यों अभी आपने resignation दे दिया, but people should know ना कि why you gave resign. At least we can give a try. We can tell that we gave resign because of your toxic, because you couldn't able to do that. It's inhuman working hour.
The Health Ministry's directive states that resident doctors' shifts should be capped at 12 hours, and they should clock no more than 48 hours a week. Before taking to social media, Rishu had filed a right to information request to her husband's workplace for an explanation of his overtime.
I want an answer, but I didn't get any reply. So again I did RTI second time to the GB Pant, that why it is why my first RTI is not being answered.
Elsewhere, Dr. Rajat Mohan is a senior cardiologist at a private hospital. He recalls his experience as a young doctor.
For the resident doctors, their working hours are long. It has been brought to light by the various organizations and at the same time by the courts also. But still, I think so that at times it becomes difficult for the hospitals and the senior doctors and all to fit in those particular time schedules, and the working hours can get really extended. Working hours is definitely an issue.
For Rishu and her husband, the ordeal had a positive outcome. After her post on social media, the story was picked up by the press. Eventually, the hospital contacted the couple to reach a resolution.
Then I got a call from HOD sir कि ऐसे मतलब क्या बात है, you people come and talk to us. और 8 घंटे की ड्यूटी अभी उन्होंने आई थिंक 28 अक्टूबर से शायद ज्वाइन किया था अपना वापस, तो तब से तो 8 घंटे की ड्यूटी है एंड वीक में एक ऑफ है.
Previously, the number of doctors were less. Now the government has really put in efforts to increase the number of people. The specialists have also increased. So with more workforce, I think so, the number of working hours can be curtailed to quite an extent.
I don't think there is a sector of professionals that I would say don't feel burnt out. It's private sector employees like corporates, and it can be then government workers, and it can be teachers and doctors and nurses. So many of them actually would across the board experience some form of burnout and exhaustion.
In some professions, long hours are driven by staff shortages. In the IT sector, however, burnout may stem from the opposite issue, an oversupply of workers.
When I quit, I wanted to test the waters and see what the market is like. And to my displeasure, I realized that nobody's calling me back.
Globally, the IT sector is experiencing a massive structural realignment of its workforce. And India is no exception. The COVID-era hiring boom is over. Now, firms are transitioning to a leaner, AI-aided model. In the first 9 months of FY 25 to 26, the top IT firms hired just 17 net employees, compared with over 17,000 additions the year prior.
It was an absolute shit show. People getting laid off, people with a lot of experience in terms of years, people with extremely solid credentials, they were not hearing back because the number of roles available were, if there were 5, applicants were 500. There was just tremendous surplus in supply.
As competition for IT jobs gets more intense, this could mean more pressure for those employed to keep their jobs. Sunil is another IT worker who moved to Bengaluru from the north. He too has asked to remain anonymous so as not to hurt his future job prospects.
If you are not ready to do it, there are at least 500 other people who are. It's kind of understood that there is a lot of people out in the market. So if you're not going to kind of, follow whatever it is that the company is kind of putting forward, you can be easily replaced. And one of my recent firms, they kind of took us on for 8-9 months, really reputed firm, got us to work really, really hard. And at the end of 8-9 months, they were like, okay, that's about it. Thanks for doing the work. And then pretty much unceremoniously, they let you go and they tell you the project's closed and things like that.
Pressure to deliver. So in that sense is something part of the job, but it can lead to very tense situations and exorbitant demands upon human beings in terms of work hours, in terms of capacity, stretching their knowledge bases. And that is a side which is undesirable, and that is what we see most in the digital startups, knowledge-intensive industries right now. I've got to deliver every quarter, otherwise I'm out.
In this high-pressure environment, industry leaders such as Narayana Murthy have argued that long hours are necessary for success. His comments have sparked wider debate about India's corporate culture. Some believe that hard work and total commitment are essential for progress and growth.
Now tell me, any successful person who's an individual performer, an athlete, a cricketer, a football star, a TV star, okay, TV anchor, how much work do they put in? They put in a lot of work.
Mohandas Pai is a venture capitalist who leads several investment firms in Bengaluru. He was formerly the CFO of tech giant Infosys.
I work 12 hours a day for 20-25 years. I did it voluntarily. I'm not saying you should do it. I was self-motivated and I've been very successful. You want to get promoted more than others, you want to be a star, you got to put in work. There's no other way. You don't want to do that, it's fine. It's okay. Come at time, go on time and say, this is my work. Some people are motivated to do more work, but nobody is flogged to do more work and nobody is pushed to do more work.
This idea has been ingrained into our minds, especially into the young generations who later became the workers in IT and all the sectors we discuss. Individually, if you work hard, you can be successful. Successful mainly in terms of your wealth, your richness, you can be successful.
But for Sunil, the rat race would soon take its toll.
Working in a fast-paced environment, especially when there's a lot of competition, it's stressful in a way, always being compared to other teammates, always being compared to other teams. That competition wala feeling where they are trying to gamify your outcomes, trying to kind of put you in pace with other people at work also.
And this is perhaps the other side of Indian corporate culture, one which prioritizes profits over people.
The corporate culture in India, in my opinion, is just an extension of you would have seen the construction places. There will be a person to supervise the other workers. He will ensure that you stay more time in the workplace and you will do your work, right? There you are not considered as a human being with your feelings and all those things. Even globally, Indian managers have very bad reputation that they will force people to work more. We have a very ingrained feeling that once I hire a person, his life, his time, everything I can utilize whenever I want. It's very evident that senior leaders of some of the Indian companies are saying that why should you stay at home on Sundays? How long you will look at your wife?
I think the expectation that's kind of there from corporates has always been to keep your personal life second. They're always trying to kind of maximize the output they're able to get out of people and minimize what they're kind of putting in, which is how corporates work. For me, burnout began in the phase or in the form of a lack of recognition. You start asking yourself why, right? And why am I doing this? What's the point of this? Or like what's sort of the outcome?
In the 1990s and 2000s, India's IT sector expanded rapidly, driven by cost competitiveness combined with large-scale delivery and strong technical capabilities. Multinational companies outsourced work to India's growing technology industry.
One of the reasons why many of the MNCs would like to come to India is because of the availability of cheap labor here and also possibility of making people work more, which might not be possible if the same MNC going to, let's say, a Western European country or Canada or places in which better labor rights are protected and also better union protections are available.
So the scenario is that most of the IT companies in India at least, they are working on a time-based billing. So they will bill the client based on how many hours employees are made to work. So more hours employees work and more billing they can do from the client side. In current scenario, companies and CEOs are pushing for more working hours so that they can increase their profit while undermining the health and other conditions what is there. So if the existing employees can be reduced and less employees can be made for longer or work intensively, so they can maximize their profit.
Yet, for all the long hours Indian IT workers are asked to pull, the rewards may not be commensurate with effort. According to a survey by Code Submit, a tech hiring platform, software engineers in India earn about $7,700 per annum on average. Comparatively, in China, the yearly remuneration is almost $23,800. And for those in the United States, the highest paying market, make over $110,000 per year. With tech firms slowing hiring, wage pressure could intensify further.
The one challenge we face in India is 10 million young people graduate from college. So we have to create enough high quality jobs. So high quality jobs are not there. No country needs 20 million, 16, 18 million jobs for the young workforce every year. No country has that. No country has faced it barring China. And the youth bulge is there because of the fact that the population grew 25, 30 years back and we didn't make enough investment then. So we're suffering the consequences today.
Changing the more exploitative aspects of India's IT sector may not be easy. Union membership and collective action are relatively rare among tech workers. Some companies have discouraged unionization, instead promoting a hustle culture.
So when you look at the liberalization of India, it's not purely an economic change that is happening. There is also a huge ideological warfare that happened from the late 80s onwards. It promoted an idea that unionization or collective bargaining is essentially bad, which is bad for development, growth, and generally the progress of the country. So how did we reach a situation that we have certain labor laws? It was mainly because the people joined their hands together, they formed unions, they collectively bargained. Then only these rights became something viable to the workers. Not because suddenly capitalism became fairer.
Suhas Adiga is one of the leaders of the union representing IT workers in Karnataka state. Founded in 2017, it's one of the first registered IT industry unions.
So we are actually focusing more on policy level of the matters, like to ensure better work-life balance and to pressure the government to have this one right to disconnect past their law, as well as to ensure the working hours are regulated. India is one of the longest working countries in the world. In the case of China, so their maximum working hours is 40 hours, where in India it is 48 hours. And the salary they are getting is triple or more compared to what India is getting. So that is not acceptable. As a community, we are not ready to die for the profits of Narayana Murthy or Bhaveshakar or LTM.
And if diligence is commonly viewed as the path to success, how much of work-related stress is self-imposed? Every day, Kishore plies the streets of Delhi on his bike, doing deliveries. He had come to the capital from his village to pursue a degree in agriculture. His father is a mason, and his family not well off. For him, tuition is expensive.
फीस इसकी होती है मतलब 12 दूना 24,000 मतलब एक सेमेस्टर का 12,000, 2 सेमेस्टर का 24,000 मतलब एक साल में 24,000, 24 से 25। इसका जो होता है प्रैक्टिकल का अलग होता है।
So, to pay some of his fees and to support himself in the capital, Kishore works as a delivery rider. He sometimes clocks up to 12 hours of work a day.
ऐसा एक दिन भी नहीं है काम ना करूं। कभी बीमार हो गए तो ऐसे भले हो सकता है कि ना करूं, नहीं तो काम करते हैं, कभी भी छुट्टी नहीं मारते। ये गांव चला जाऊंगा तो गांव वाले कहते हैं ये घूम रहा है, कुछ करता नहीं, पढ़ाई लिखाई, फिर भी इसलिए यहीं ठीक है, शहर ही ठीक है। अपना कमाओ खाओ, जितना भी बच रहा है फीस भरो।
For Kishore, he bears the weight of improving his family's lot in life.
जी खुद इसलिए टेंशन होती है कि खुद कुछ करें। एक बहन है, शादी करनी है, यही सब प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं, इसलिए नींद नहीं आती रात को।
Why do many Indian workers put in long hours and at times endure toxic workplace conditions? Part of the explanation may lie in how work is viewed, not just as a job, but as a key part of one's identity, ambitions, and sense of purpose.
I think so it is more of Gen Zs and millennials who are having these burnout problems more as compared to, as you get older, the burnout becomes lesser of a problem. But in all these individuals between 18 to 35 years, I think so burnout is the time they are in their careers, they are trying to set up things at that particular time.
The urban middle class has grown up to glorify hard work, and also the suffering of hard work has been recognized as a virtue. We grow up being told to work hard in school and get good marks, and that gets us affection from parents and appreciation from teachers, and working hard has meant that you get more money and you get more opportunities. And even if the correlation is not as exact, it has at least in the psyche of people meant that.
So the urban Indian middle class is something I call a sandwich class, which is sandwiched between an upper layer of the society, and then you have a lower income strata of the society. And this kind of puts a lot of pressure on them, that they are trying to keep up with the expectation that they have for themselves or with the society.
They want increase in their standards of living. The standards of living defined by, for a large part of the middle class, it would be defined by what kind of home, which locality, what kind of car. And if you're already facing burnout effects, which is confined to the workplace, then the anxiety is enormous, because you also are gripped by fear of slipping down the social ladder.
Even if they put in the shift, many of these consumption-driven aspirations can still feel out of reach. After accounting for inflation, real wages in India have largely stagnated since the pandemic. Data from the periodic labour force survey shows that real wages for salaried workers were about 1.7% lower in mid-2024 than in mid-2019, meaning purchasing power has slightly declined over that period.
Like the real income growth has hardly been 0.4%, whereas the kind of lifestyle expenses they are having, they are going at much faster pace. Like for example, education inflation. Likewise with case when they are trying to buy property in urban area, that property prices are also catching up more than their real income growth, right? And because their real income is not keeping up with that, they face pressure day in, day out.
For me, it's more of a survival-based thing, right? Like if tomorrow you don't have work, day after where does the kind of food come from? Which is like very similar for a lot of people.
Indian households are taking on more credit to fuel consumption and lifestyle needs. Calculated as a percentage of GDP, household debt rose from the low 30s in the pre-COVID years to over 42% in financial year 2024, the highest in more than a decade.
And personal loans often are just consumption loans. They could be buying, a high-profile phone or smartphone or any such thing, jackets, clothes, good shoes, who knows. So this has been there since middle or end of 24. This was being observed, that there are a number of defaults. So obviously, it's eroding into your savings, it's cutting into your incomes. You've got to discharge those debts or you default, you spoil your credit scores. It supports the evidence that burnout and can get exacerbated by financial pressures.
For Sunil, the lack of a payoff left him disillusioned.
Since the day I started, one of the first companies I joined in, also they said, we have a lot of hustle culture. And at that time, I was like, wow, hustle culture, I love it. And now I'm like, wow, hustle culture, I hate it. The concept of hustle revolves around getting the bag at the end of the day, which I feel we do get in some places, but it's not equivalent to the amount of work that we're putting in. So that I think is the major contributor for me as to why I'm slowly getting burnout, why I'm slowly getting disenfranchised.
And for others, chasing their dreams came with the ultimate price.
What to say? She was
So
full
loving.
of life. That is her main. She had so many friends, and she had so many dreams, and she worked really hard for them also.
In 2024, Anna Sebastian Parayo landed a prestigious role as a consultant. But the grueling hours at work would soon affect her.
When I speak to her, she would keep on crying. She couldn't say anything. She was just crying all the time. And we would tell her, you leave and come. Why are you remaining there? You come. But she's saying, I got into EY. It was my dream to get into Big Four after passing CA.
Anna moved to Pune city to join EY in March 2024. EY is one of the Big Four global accounting firms. These companies have a reputation for high work demands, with employee surveys reporting that 50 to 70 plus hour work weeks are common during busy periods.
In the middle of the night, she would come out of the room. She would sit on the staircase of that hotel. And on that staircase, she would sit with her laptop and she would be working when I call her. At 1 o'clock, 1:30, she will be out of the room, sitting alone on the staircase and working. So this pressure was there right from the beginning for her.
When Anna's parents met her for her convocation in July, they took her to a doctor.
And that cardiologist asked us to come inside, and he talked with us. He told us that there's nothing wrong with her heart. Only thing is that she is not getting proper sleep.
She is not sleep. He told us this. Not proper sleep. She is not sleeping, he said. She is not sleeping.
But despite the precautions, tragedy would strike. A few days after, while at her accommodation, Anna felt a wave of discomfort. She sought help from her neighbors, who called an ambulance.
On the way only she passed away. That is what happened actually. Even now we are not recovering. We can't even believe that she had no health issues. Nothing, no problem. How can this happen? We can't even believe it. Even now we are not able to believe that she is really gone. That is what we are going through.
Anna died of cardiac arrest. She was only 26. Her parents say work pressures led to her death, which EY refutes. Nonetheless, her mother, Anita, wrote a letter to EY India chairman Rajiv Mamani, sharing her family's tragic story and calling for change. In response to Anita's letter, the EY India chairman posted on LinkedIn, affirming that the well-being of his people is his topmost priority.
For them, it is only profit, and an employee is only registration ID, nothing else. If they are gone, they'll take the next person. The work will continue. That is all. Only we have lost our child.
In the last couple of years, there have been other reports of work stress-related deaths. In the city of Lucknow, a bank executive died of a heart attack at work. In Bengaluru, a tech executive was found dead after facing work-related pressures. In Kerala, a 23-year-old took his own life. He had confided in his parents about work-related stress and harassment.
A toxic work culture is one that emphasizes short-term productivity gains over employee health. And that's clearly not good for anybody. It's not good for the employee, it's not good for the employer either. People actually die because of stress when it causes anxiety and depression. We already have one of the highest suicide rates in a young workforce in this country. What we're talking about is, can we have a workplace culture where growth does not come at the expense of employee health? Rather, we see the fact that a thriving, financially healthy organization has to have thriving, healthy employees.
Can India reform the more toxic aspects of its work culture while still sustaining economic growth? And what are the consequences if it does not? When Narayana Murthy spoke about long working hours, he was drawing a comparison with India's northeastern neighbour, China. He argued that a strong work ethic is essential if India hopes to narrow the economic gap with China.
We are a poor country. Our per capita income is $2,900. China is $12,000. We should compare with others. Compare with China, which has got a large population like us, similar problems, maybe 15 years ago, and see, then you can say what the data is. Indians have to work harder, okay? Is that, like Narayana Murthy said, one generation has to sacrifice so the future is better.
The debate now is whether India's gruelling work culture is a byproduct of rapid economic development. Since 2021, India has been the world's fastest growing major economy, expanding at roughly 6 to 7% a year. Is this intense work culture simply a necessary but temporary phase during a period of high growth?
We've been following all the debates about hours, and we have seen the China models, we have seen Narayana Murthy sir's recommendations to young workforce of India as well. We totally understand that there are high intensity times. We understand that there are sometimes it is mission critical for an organization, for the teams to come together and continuously do immense amount of hard work. We respect those ambition and hard work.
It is true that China also had this culture, and which is exemplified and glorified in India also. But the capacity of the Chinese state is always often overlooked. It made massive investments in health, in public housing, and more important than that, the Chinese population was never vulnerable and exposed after the late 70s and early 80s to food inflation. Those kind of shocks, the vulnerabilities did not exist in the Chinese case. So that is the other side of the Chinese work culture.
There is a balance where we have to be empathic and we have to recognize that these are very real things. Burnout, stress, anxiety, depression, they're not created, they're extremely real. At the same time, we don't want to create a workforce or a society that is fragile or entitled or has wrong expectations about life, that is not resilient, and that in any way becomes identified with having gone through any stress, trauma, or suffering.
However, beyond a certain point, longer working hours can actually reduce productivity. A Stanford study found that output declines sharply once people work more than 50 hours a week. There are also health risks. The World Health Organization reported that working more than 55 hours a week is associated with a 35% higher risk of a stroke and a 17% higher risk of death from heart disease.
Your blood pressure can go up because the time you are stressed, and the impact can be on account of that your immunity goes down. And as a result, you get all the frequent upper respiratory tract infections. Some people really succumb to heart attacks also after a burnout.
The kind of low quality, low productive, high stress jobs that are going on, it can lead to, theoretically, into disillusionment, psychological, mental health issues, physical health and illnesses, leading to premature aging and premature exit from the labor market. and then lower productivity. So you get the opposite effect of the demographic dividend than what is expected from it.
Deloitte India attempted to quantify the economic cost to the economy. Its 2022 study estimated that Indian employers lose up to $14 billion annually due to absenteeism, presenteeism, and employee attrition linked to poor mental health.
And the data suggests some 30 days per year is lost to burnout. Manifests in different ways of people taking leaves or people being present but actually not working.
Globally, the annual loss of productivity due to burnout is estimated to be around $1 trillion. When you think about India's growth story so far and India's growth potential, we all know that the single biggest asset we have is the young workforce that we have. Young, bright, creative minds. And so if we want to create like a $30 trillion economy, we have to invest in the health of their minds.
Last November, India consolidated its 29 labour laws into 4 labour codes. The aim was to provide better safety nets to workers, as well as promote ease of business.
Government, as a public authority, have to make sure that you put in minimum norms to make sure there is no exploitation of people in a labor surplus economy. Because we are labor surplus, so people can exploit you. They brought in a code on health and safety. We never had a code on health and safety. The court judgments today which says that the period of commute is work.
However, some parts of the new labour codes have been criticised. For example, certain provisions now apply only to firms with 20 or more employees, up from the previous threshold of 10.
Then what happens? All these 10 to 19 people working places got out of the labor protections. And on the top of it, there are some, sugar-coated provisions like we will form something for the gig workers and things like that. Even in that case, they're not going to touch the real questions faced by these sectors.
Under India's new labour codes, the working time remains capped at 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, for a total of 48 hours. Provisions allow for shifts of up to 12 hours, subject to overtime and rest requirements. However, in practice, raising complaints may not always be straightforward.
And if you become that, rebel who's going to challenge your employer, then your entire career, everybody is worried about their career, especially in this kind of an economy. And in a job market in which jobs are very limited and it's very difficult for a person to bounce back to another job, how many of them will have the guts to do that?
Fear of reprisals is why so many of those we interviewed asked to stay anonymous. Perhaps another sign of Indian workplace toxicity.
Being able to share as freely as I can with you can only be done if I stay anonymous. I feel like if I was out here with my face, tomorrow I might not have the job that I currently have, and good luck getting another one.
So instead of the law, there is growing pressure on employers to address the issue. In one survey, more than 6 in 10 HR leaders said that stress management and mental health support rank among the top demands from employees.
We have to acknowledge it's an issue because our youngest workforce is demanding that we look at it. We look at data, 72% of Gen Z employees say that they want mental health services, and how empathic is this organization. So one way or the other, we are here now where the corporate world has acknowledged and is talking about it. They often have employee assistance programs, in-house counselors, awareness programs. So many of the things that are very important, big organizations are doing.
Employers are responsible for employee welfare because they are your employees. They work for you, you pay them, and you have to take care of them.
Even now, the debate rages on. Every week, articles appear in the Indian press on the topic. India has a target to reach high income status by 2047, something achievable only with high, sustained growth. The question then, what its workers are asked to sacrifice to get there.
It's a real conversation. We know that other countries are facing it. We know China, that famously exported their 996 policy, has made it illegal because they know that's not sustainable and that people are dying because of that. In India, there is conversation. I think government definitely recognizes that burnout is an issue. Conversations have increased both in the organization and in our society, and that's a really good thing.
There is no option but to have a balance between growth and economic welfare. And the question that we need to be careful about is, as we are getting to those economic outcomes, in that time are we putting people under a lot of stress? Because eventually we will get to those outcomes, but what is that journey going to be to get to those outcomes? And getting to those outcomes should not require us to really kill our people.
Sometimes it's also very ironical that people are demanding that people should work. Workers should work for 72 hours and more than that to build the nation. But these are also the people who get various kinds of tax exemptions, other kind of exemptions, and many benefits from the state. And the same people will ask you to work more.
For Ravi, he continues to work in tech. But his perspective has changed since his brush with burnout.
There's so many competitive people around me. I will have to way better than them for the leadership to be like, you know what, let's choose this person for this promotion over everyone else. I am not aggressively pushing for a promotion. So if it's chill for me right now, it is because I choose for it to be chill.